Welcome to the ToKnight Show with Superintendent Shannon Cheek, your go-to podcast for staying in the know about all the exciting happenings in your local school community. We know that we are stronger together, so today's conversation is designed to give you a greater opportunity to be actively engaged in the success of our students. And now, Mr. Cheek.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Shannon Cheek, Superintendent of Arthur CUSD 305, and I want to welcome you to the ToKnight Show. Very excited today. We have a special guest, one of our teachers in our district, Rose Hollingsworth is here with us. She's a teacher at Lovington Grade School, so pretty excited to have Rose and want to thank her for her time and for the effort to get over here and record our show today. So before we jump in, Rose, and start talking about our mentor program, which you have taken over and done a fantastic job with, why don't you just briefly introduce yourself, maybe talk a little bit about your history and education and why you chose the career path that you did.
Okay, my name is Rose Hollingsworth. I teach special education at Lovington Grade School. This is my 11th year in education. I've taught K through 6. I taught high school for a brief time, but I like the elementary kids way better. And I've worn many hats. I've been a volleyball coach, athletic director, interim transportation director, and now I'm in charge of student council, the mentor program, and the kids in my classroom. So.
And needless to say, you also have your Type 75, your
Yes,
administrative certificate. So you're right, you have worn a lot of hats, haven't you?
I do, yes.
Yeah, so you mentioned you've spent your career in special ed, although you mentioned some things that I haven't even done, transportation director. You took over most recently our mentor program, and our mentor program for our teachers is what we're discussing today. You took that over. Why did you have an interest in taking over the mentor program for the district?
So I felt like I needed a change. Not that this is changing my actual role, but I felt like I needed to just do something a little outside of my comfort zone. And I think that this has really stretched my comfort zone. And I kind of wanted to be a little bit more into a leadership role. And I feel like this is a good chance for me to do that. So.
Well, one of the things that that I appreciated about you is that you met with us administratively, and you wanted our input, and you really did a lot of research on the program, and I really felt like you put a lot of time and effort into revamping the program. So if you could maybe just talk about, through some of the research that you've done and some of the time you've spent researching on what makes a good, strong program, what did you find out in terms of what makes a strong mentor program, and why is it so important for districts to implement a program?
So since I've came to the district, I've been in the district for 4 years. Well, this is my 4th year. So since I've been in the district, I've been a mentee, like a new teacher. I've been a mentor. And then the last 2 years, I've been in charge of the program. And I've seen, every aspect of it. And I think that jumping in and changing some things where there were some challenges, I think has really helped. But I think having a strong mentor program really helps retain the teachers in a district. And I really want the mentor program to be a place where teachers can go and get support and help if they need it, and just kind of a safe space for them to be able to talk about things that are happening in their classroom. So. Excellent.
Can you talk maybe just a little bit about what it looked like before you took over, and what that process of change looked like for you?
Sure. So having been in all 3 of the roles, it was, as a new teacher, I wasn't new to education, but I was new to the district. And so having that help from the mentor was very helpful. Just if I had any questions, they were able to help. But then as a mentor, it's kind of different. You don't really know what you're doing, especially if you've never done it before. So there wasn't a lot of support for the mentors before jumping in as a mentor teacher. And then as the coordinator, I felt like I was kind of a behind the scenes player, and I wanted to be more, I wanted more face-to-face things with the new teachers. I wanted them to know that, they weren't alone, and that they wanted that. So I think that there wasn't a ton of support from the coordinator before, and I wanted that to change.
Yeah. So what were some of the changes that you've made since taking over? What are some of the major themes that maybe you've tackled?
Sure. So I did make 4 pretty big changes. We went from a 1-year program to a 2-year program. So instead of leaving them to their own devices. Year 2, they're getting another year of support, but they only get that mentor for 1 year. And then the second change that we made was the mentors actually received a training this summer where they came in and we spent a couple hours, talking about what it means to be a good mentor and how to have those conversations with your new teacher. And then I also changed, what was the third change? Oh, we do monthly half-day professional development sessions. And so the teachers come over to Lovington and we kind of just sit and we are able to talk about celebrations. We talk about things that maybe aren't going well in our classrooms. And I did some training on like classroom management and parent-teacher conferences and things like that. That was our most recent one. And then the last change I made was they have, instead of a 1-day orientation at the beginning of the school year, they get a 2-day orientation. And I think that I was able to introduce the program and things like that. So I think that really worked out well for us this year.
And there's a lot, isn't there?
Oh,
at
yeah.
the beginning of a school year, a lot to cover.
It can be very overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things I mentioned earlier that I appreciated about you was that I feel like you really did spend a lot of time researching what best practice is. So do you mind just maybe talking to us a little bit about what research you did do, or what model programs you might have went and visited, or how did you come to the conclusion of, okay, this is what I want us to model our program after?
So last December, I went to the Raising Student Achievement Conference in Oak Brook, Illinois, and it was a huge conference. But there was these two people from a high school in Bradley, Bourbonnais area, and they were talking about their mentor program and what they did. And I really liked learning about that, and so I really took what they talked about and kind of tailored it to fit our district, because our district is so unique in how big we are and how many buildings we have. So it looks a little different than theirs does, and they also have more money than we do, but that's okay. We're making it work. So they were able to buy like a whole program, and obviously we didn't do that, but I'm developing a program that's working for us, and that's really working for the new teachers and for me in the district. So I did a lot of research with them. Mrs. Graham and I also went up and observed one of their half-day training sessions. And I think that was really helpful to kind of see it in action, and then to be able to ask questions. We had a ton of questions, and they were able to answer all of them. And they shared everything with us, and so it was just really helpful to have that support from them. So
nice, very good. So I know that you've made some pretty big changes this year, right? You talked about 1 year to 2 year. It may be too early to know this next question, but I'm just curious, like the changes you've made, how do you feel like maybe it's been received by staff or maybe even administration? I know I've spoke already on camera about my thoughts about the work you've put in and the changes and how I think they've been really good. What's your thoughts? What kind of feedback are you getting?
I think from the administration, I've had some really good feedback. They've been really helpful in getting everything moving and going. We've had some struggles, but I think that they've been really helpful in making the program the success that it is. The new teachers, we did our first training session in September, and the feedback, we did an exit ticket, and so that feedback that they shared on those forums was really nice. They really enjoyed being able to get together. We don't all work in the same building, so it's nice to be able to get together with people that are going through the same things that you are as a new teacher, and just be able to talk about those things. So I think that's been helpful.
Yeah.
So
I always hear as a superintendent, time. You can't. It's so valuable.
Yeah.
So one of the things we talked about when you were considering this was, is there a way to do some of this kind of work and support during the day? And I know that's been a challenge to overcome, but I just really appreciate the fact that you're trying to look at ways to provide this support to our teaching staff, during their time.
yeah.
So I appreciate that. So like in a perfect world, no restrictions. You mentioned we're restricted by space, right? Our district spans 252 square miles, so we're massive in terms of size geographically. We have 4 buildings. We're spread out, so that does promote some challenges. But if you could take all of that away, finances and location in a perfect world, what would it look like? Like, what would be the perfect program?
So I talked to Mrs. Graham about this earlier today, and we kind of talked about how it would be nice for this role to be a full-time position, where not only could you support the teachers, you know, in those half-day sessions, but you could also push into the classrooms and provide support that way, kind of like an instructional coach. And then one of the things that school did that we went and observed, they have 2 instructional coaches in-house, and so they're able to provide that support all the time to those new teachers. And so I think one of the big things would be just having a couple instructional coaches in district would be super helpful, because having those instructional coaches would be beneficial for everyone, not just new teachers, but I think all teachers in the district. So in a perfect world, a couple instructional coaches and then someone to oversee them, I think would be the biggest one.
Yeah. So maybe for those outside of our world that don't
Yes.
live in the education world, instructional coach, what does that mean?
So an instructional coach isn't an administrator. They don't do any evaluations, nothing like that. They kind of just are there to, if you have questions about teaching, they can provide strategies to help you. They can provide you tools. Like if you have a class that's kind of unruly, they can come in and give you maybe some tips on classroom management, things like that. And I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's just another layer of
Yeah.
support. Yeah.
But that's not
Excellent.
evaluative.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you for that. Well, I mean, you talked about challenges. I think we've kind of covered that a little bit. How about in the future? I know, sometimes change takes a while to implement. It takes a while for people to embrace some of those changes. Where would you like to see this program in the future, and what's your vision for it moving forward?
I think that with the time restriction that I had this year and getting everything ready for the school year, I wasn't able to find a lot of speakers to come in for a half-day session. So in the future, I would like to provide more of that, and maybe even have a speaker at the beginning of the school year to get them started. I do have Kendra Rogers from EASY, our special ed co-op. She's coming in next month to talk about trauma-informed practices. So I think just more of that for the teachers would be helpful. And then just continuing to provide that support. EASY does have some instructional coaches as well, so I think maybe using them as a resource.
Yeah. So we've talked about how the program is supporting staff, the 1 and 2 year program, how you've expanded that. All of the things that you're doing, I know you're doing a book study. I have that book and have been reading along as well. So you really have done a great job of providing multiple things. If someone were to come to you and say, okay, Rose, you can only do one. Like you only get to do one thing. What would be the single most important piece of this process for support?
I think the professional development sessions, just being able to get together, with people that aren't necessarily teaching the same thing as you. They're not in the same building as you, but they're going through those same struggles. They don't know the kids. They're new to the district. They don't know the kids. They don't really know the processes and things like that. But I think, just getting together, knowing they're not alone, it's huge. Building community is one of the things that is talked about in that book study. And I think really when you have a good community, you're not going to go anywhere. And I think that will help with retention. Is that when you have a strong community, you don't go anywhere. So
you kind of answered my next question, which is perfect. Actually, you led right into it, and that was going to be, how can we continue to make this mentor program, such a valuable resource that teachers don't want to leave the district. You kind of spoke to that a little bit, so I appreciate that. Talked about future of the program. Appreciate your visioning related to that. By the time this airs, tomorrow will have come and gone, but tomorrow I'm proud to say that you're going to be representing our district in a regional office district, or actually region-wide professional development session. Those are going to be held in Mattoon, and they're going to be held in Charleston on Friday, October 11th, and you're going to be one of our presenters. So talk to me a little bit about what that looks like.
Well, I'm going to start out with how we came about this, like how I decided to make changes and things like that, about how unique our district is, how big it is, and then I am going to go talk about all the steps, that it took to make the changes, because it didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of work, but I think it's going to be great. So.
Well, I have no doubt that you're going to represent yourself, represent the program, and certainly represent our district very well tomorrow. So I'm excited to hear all about what that looks like and how that went. So I think that wraps up what I had to talk about in regards to the mentor program. I just really appreciate the time you've put into it. I appreciate the support you're providing our staff. I don't know if I've missed anything, but is there anything else that you want to share or talk about in relation to the program that I might have missed?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay. Well, again, I appreciate your time. I know you had to take some time to get over here today and visit with us, and time away means that you've got to make up that somehow when you get back, right? So that's recognized and appreciated. So program's great. I really look forward to continuing to hear more about it as the year goes on, and certainly look forward to working with you on making changes moving forward. So again, Rose Hollingsworth, she's our special ed teacher at Lovington Grade School, and she's in charge of our mentor program. Really appreciate her time today. Looking forward to visiting and learning more about it as we progress. So Shannon Cheek for the ToKnight Show. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for listening to The ToKnight Show, a broadcast of Arthur Leventon Atwood Hillman Community Unit School District number 305. Special thanks to today's guest. This podcast is produced for you by the Arthur Leventon Atwood Hillman Broadcasting Class.